order the City of Natchitoches Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. The next council meeting for any items that require rezoning or introduction only on October the 10th, 2022 at this location. And any applications for rezoning will be voted on October the 24th, 2022. We encourage everyone to at least attend the final passage of any rezoning request on October the 24th. As I said, on October the 10th, it's for introduction only. I would suggest anybody that wanted to be heard show up. In the event that somebody shows up to talk for behalf of an application who indicates they can't be here on the 24th, the City Council has been pretty good about letting people talk if they said they can't be here. So that'd be the only reason I'd say to be here on the 10th. For any variances or those are subject to being final 10 days after today's meeting unless there is an appeal. Appeal must be in writing and filed with the clerk of the City Council and will be docketed within 45 days of filing at the discretion of the City Council. I'd ask everyone that signed in when they come up to the AMBO, I'd like them to identify themselves and where they live. Please speak directly into the microphone. We don't have any Zoom participants anymore, do we?
No, sir.
Okay, so that's our next Planning Commission meeting will be November the 1st, 2022. I would ask everyone to put their phone on either on off or silent or mute. The procedure we'll follow is we will hear from the applicant and anyone in favor of the application first. Then we will hear any objections to the application, and then there will be a short rebuttal by the applicant or his designee, one person only, to counter any of the objections made to the applications. Then we'll move on to discussion by commission members. Ms. Chantrell, have I left anything out?
No, sir, you have not.
Ms. Oaks, would you make roll call?
Here.
Edward Blake.
Here.
Charles Whitehead III.
Here.
Ron Brown.
Here.
Isaac Lewis. Bobby Claiborne.
Here.
Walter Johnson.
Here.
Anita Dubois. Michael Lewis.
Here. All right, by my count, that's a quorum. Is that correct? All right. Roman numeral 3, approval of the minutes from the August 2nd, 2022 and September 6th, 2022 regular meetings. The commissioners have been provided copies of the proposed minutes in their packets. If there are no additions, corrections, or deletions, I'd entertain a motion to waive their formal reading and accept them as proposed.
I so move.
Motion by Lewis, second by Claiborne. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. I will sign those at the conclusion, Ms. Oaks. Recordings for all city meeting videos are now posted on the city's website. To watch the video, the user can subscribe to the city's YouTube channel at City of Natchitoches, LA, or visit the city's website link at https://www.natchitocheSLA.gov/content/meeting-videos. Any other preliminary matters?
No, sir.
All right. Roman numeral 4, old business, subsection A. The City Council approved the application by Reginald Smith to rezone the following: Lot 10 of Peoples subdivision, west of 111.3 feet, is shown on a plat and conveyance book 419 folio 358 of the records of Natchitoches Parish, Louisiana, from B3 to B3 commercial with an additional BA zoning. The reason is for alcoholic consumption on the premises at 1230 Washington Street. Roman numeral 4, old business, subsection B. The City Council approved an application by Ellis and Melinda Newman for a tiny home placement at the following location. Lot being a portion of Lot H of Monroe Sibley Lake subdivision is shown on a plat and conveyance book 286 folio 263 of the records of Natchitoches Parish, Louisiana, and the north 25 feet of Lot 10 and Lot 11 of the Maley subdivision, and a 30-foot strip across the north said lot. The reason is a tiny home placement bearing municipal address 385 Monroe Drive. Old business, subsection C. The City Council approved an application by Ms. Carolyn McCoy to rezone the following following location, Lot 4, Block F of Keegan Addition, from R1 residential to R1 residential with an SE zoning. The reason is to operate a short-term rental bearing municipal address 516 Keegan Street, Roman numeral 4, old business, subsection D. The city council approved the application by John and Sarah Ziegler to rezone the following: lot on the northwest corner of Nelkin and Demosier Streets, 53 feet fronting on Nelkin by 125 feet from R1 residential to R1 special exception with an SE zoning. The reason is to operate a short-term rental bearing municipal address 202 Demosier Street. Roman numeral 4, old business, subsection E. The city council approved the application by Mr. Winston Ferguson to rezone the following: lot 5 of the David Pearson survey on the south side of Sydney Street to R2 special exception residential with an SE zoning. The reason is to operate a short-term rental bearing municipal address of 203 Sydney Street. Roman numeral 5, new business. We have an application by Ms. Deborah T. Arnold to rezone the following: lot 7 of St. Clair Estates, unit number 4, from R1 residential to R1 residential with a special exception. The reason is to operate a short-term rental bearing municipal address 793 Whitfield Drive, exhibit number 1 in Commissioner's packet, councilperson district number 1. Would Ms. Arnold or her designee come forward? Yes, please. Please speak into the microphone, ma'am.
Good evening. My name is Deborah F. Arnold. I noticed when I watched the video of the last meeting that my middle initial was incorrect, so if we could submit that for correction. My primary home is at 219 Natchitoches Dam Road, Montgomery, Louisiana. Husband and I also own a second home that we purchased back in June on 793 Whitfield Drive here in Natchitoches. I want to apologize for not being at the September meeting. I was on a pre-planned vacation with my daughter and wasn't able to be here, but I have seen the YouTube video online, so I have seen all of the neighbors' concerns, which I completely understand. However, there were some misperceptions that I'd like to clarify, if you're okay with me going forward with that.
It's your application, ma'am, so
Okay.
you proceed how you see
All right.
appropriate.
So there were thoughts that we had no intent to live in the home, and that's actually not accurate. We do plan to live in the home, at least part-time. The home that we're living in now, we retired to last year, and it was our fishing camp out at Natchitoches Lake. So that's where we have been staying. But I have loved Natchitoches since I was a little girl and have always dreamed of retiring, preferably on Cane River, but that's kind of out of my financial reach. So I thought the next best thing would be if we purchased a home here in Natchitoches and worked toward becoming a resident here and a member of this amazing community. When we decided to purchase the home, we did have I shouldn't blame my husband for any of this. This was all my idea. I thought that perhaps renting it out as a short-term rental would help us to offset the cost that we would have for the time being while we're trying to figure out maintain 2 homes. I was advised by other friends who have short-term rentals as well as our insurance agent that it would be better to set up an LLC so that the home could be purchased under the LLC, work that out with the bank as well for the loan, and that didn't have anything to do with creating a business. I don't own any other short-term rental homes. I don't plan to. I don't actually have the cash flow for that. I am the sole owner of Fleur de Lis Retreats, LLC. I have no employees. All of our personal funds went into this home. Nothing came from that business. I just started that LLC in March when I actually started thinking about looking for a home here. So the intent of it was never to build a big business here and open several short-term rentals. I understand the neighbors' concerns. I put myself in their shoes, and I would feel the same way. We have put a lot of money and work into the home once we purchased it, and the last thing I want is for someone to come in and tear that apart, especially if we do plan to live in it. So we are taking steps to minimize any disruption both to the neighborhood as well as to us, and to the beautiful home that we've been remodeling and decorating. Parties will be strictly prohibited. They are also strictly prohibited by Airbnb, and Airbnb is the only booking platform that we will be using for that reason. They have very strict policies. They hold both their guest and their host to very high standards. I don't know if anybody's ever been a host with Airbnb, but I don't have experience with that yet, but I have been investigating and researching, and all of the things that I find chose that site for that reason. We will allow no more than 6 people in the home at any given time, including guests that they bring in. They will have to disclose everyone staying in the home. It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, so it has plenty of room for 6 people. We are also going to be installing security cameras. I already have a Ring doorbell that points to the driveway and to the front entrance. We will have another security camera monitoring the garage entrance and another one in the backyard monitoring the back entrance so that no additional people can be sneaking in and out without us knowing about it. Also, I have purchased a noise-aware system. If you're not familiar with noise-aware, it's a device that you can put inside or outside of your home, and it actually monitors decibel level. So I can set it for the quiet times that I indicate, which I think I set up as like 9 p.m. to 7 a.m. And I'll be notified if the decibel levels go over the setting that we put in place. So if there was a party going on, I think I would definitely know about it. In addition, I've seen the petition that was presented at the last meeting. Everyone on that petition should have received a letter from me within the last couple of days. I've given all of those neighbors my phone number and my email address so that if they see anything going on there, they can also notify me. In addition, Airbnb has a neighborhood site that neighbors can go to and report issues that will be investigated. So I feel like we're doing everything that we can to protect our home and our neighborhood and our children from parties coming in and out. In fact, I've already denied someone that requested to use the home. She was going to graduate from college, and she wanted a place for her friends to come hang out with her, and I denied her for that reason. So there was also a concern about parking in the street. I will have a strict policy about parking in the driveway only. I do have room for at least 4 cars with no problem whatsoever. There was a concern about traffic being increased, and I really don't think if all of these other things go into play that there would be any more traffic than when my husband and I are driving in and out with our 2 vehicles. There was also a concern that the home had been left vacant. That is definitely not accurate. The only time that it was vacant was we closed on June 30th. On July 4th, the contractors came in and started remodeling the inside and painting. They finished their job on August the 3rd, and on August the 10th, our air conditioner went out on that same day, so we had to wait for the air conditioner to be replaced. And then we have actually been staying in the home almost every day and night since then. There have been some where we've been gone. I was on vacation a couple of weeks. We did go home a few times, but we actually got there and realized how much we love it. And so I'm hoping that all the neighbors here that we'll be able to develop a good neighborly relationship. That's what we want. It's kind of disheartening to think that you've moved into a home and all the neighbors hate you. So I'm going to do everything I can to try to prevent that from happening. We also did consider, if this doesn't work out, doing a long-term rental. We are not going to do that, and the reason is, first of all, there are nightmare stories about short-term rentals, but there are a lot of nightmare stories about long-term rentals too, and the challenge is, with a long-term rental, you don't really have a lot of control over what those renters are doing in your home, where with a short-term rental, you can see their guest reviews on Airbnb, which I vet all of that before I even approve. There's a thing called Instant Book. I have that turned off, so nobody can go in and just book my home without me reviewing them, asking them questions about why they're coming, who they're bringing, and then I have to approve it before it goes through. Also, on the petition, the one that I saw that had the 81 signatures, that represented 49 homes in the neighborhood, if I counted correctly. When I applied for the zoning, I did have to go to the courthouse and get a list of all the neighbors that were within 300 feet of our property. There were 33 names on that list, or homes on that list, and only 14 of those were actually on the petition. So less than half of the legally noticed neighbors had actually signed the petition. Again, we want to be good neighbors. We want to be considered good neighbors. And I'm going to be honest with you, if this short-term rental thing doesn't work out, it's a pain for me or it's a pain for you, I will pull the plug. Right now, because I had thought this was going to be an easier process, I do have bookings in December. They're all families just coming in for Christmas. There's one family that's coming in for the high school bass tournament with their teenage son. So those are the types of people that I actually have coming to the home, not teenagers or college kids to have their frat parties. Thank you.
All right, just 1 second. Any questions for commission members of Ms. Arnold?
Yeah, are you are you gonna live in the facility when the people are renting the home, or the whole home has been rented?
It'll be the whole home.
The
So
home,
we'll
so-
just be at our current home / camp whenever
Right.
they're renting the home.
So it's not like, I've been to a bunch of Airbnbs, and people live here, and we go downstairs, we stay in this room, and they stay over here, but you're not, when you rent it out, you rent out the whole house?
Correct,
For short
yes.
term, okay.
Mhm.
And it won't be any multi-families, it'll be one family only at a time in that house, right?
Well, it could be 2 small families. I mean, it could be 2 couples and 2 kids, because we have 3 bedrooms. So it's a limit of 6 people total.
Yeah, what I'm talking about, one family and another family, I mean,
No, they would be together. Sorry, they would be together.
one family, okay.
Yeah, I mean, it might be me and my husband and my child, and then my friend's husband, his wife, and their child. It could be 2 families that come together, but it's all one reservation.
Any further questions for Ms. Arnold from commission members?
Can you refresh my memory?
Sure.
On the application, I keep seeing short-term rental,
Yes,
but I hear Airbnb.
right. Oh, so Airbnb is just the name of the booking platform, the online, the website that you go to book the site. It is confusing because you hear B&B and you think bed and breakfast, but they're actually not bed and breakfast at all. They're normally, some people do just rent out rooms in their home. Some rent out the entire home like I'm doing. But I don't cook them breakfast. There's no activity. I'm not there, providing services to them other than just cleaning after they leave.
So it's a short-term rental.
It's a short-term rental, yes.
Okay.
Any further questions for Ms. Arnold? Anyone else, anyone to speak on behalf of the application of Arnold? Hearing none, let's hear from anybody opposing the application of Ms. Arnold. And Ms. Arnold, I would remind you that we're going to limit your rebuttal to simply what the complaints are. So we're not going to rehash anything other than what they're talking about. All right, anyone want to speak against the application on Arnold? Please come up to the ambo and state your name and address for the record.
My name is Carol Stedman. I'm at 803 Whitfield Drive in Natchitoches, Louisiana. Good evening, everybody. It's good to see such a good crowd. And I see most of these people here from St. Clair Estates and want to know what's going on and whether you met Debbie and Virgil. Never met a Virgil in my life, but I did tonight. Nice to meet you, Debbie. And all this is about you, and you seem to be a very nice person. It's nice to meet you. We are here tonight to strongly object to the proposed zoning change of Lot 17 of St. Clair Estates, Unit 4, which is 793 Whitfield Drive, from R1 to R1 residential with a special exception to operate short-term rentals. Everyone here in opposition, please stand. Thank you. In the Natchitoches, Louisiana Code of Ordinances, on page 681B, titled Residential Districts, These districts are composed mainly of areas containing one-family dwellings and open areas where similar residential developments seem to likely to occur. Few two-family and multi-family dwellings are found in these areas. The district regulations are designed to protect the residential character of the areas by prohibiting all commercial activities to encourage a suitable neighborhood environment for family life. The Planning Commission approval states in part, as not causing undue traffic congestion, creating a traffic hazard, and as being in harmony with the orderly and appropriate development of the district in which the use is located. Let me ask you what you would do in this situation.
Ms. Stebbin, let me interrupt you for a second. I'm happy to make your packet part of your objection, but you plan to sit here and read the 2.5-page letter to us?
Yes, sir, I did. But I don't
We could
have
certainly
to.
make it part of the record, but I mean, we much prefer to have an extemporaneous, it's almost like a lawyer, this is the law or your feelings, but I'd much rather hear much more of an extemporaneous type of discussion of, from the I guess from the heart or something like that, rather than reading us our regulations, because everybody except Walter's been on here long enough to know those. And
Yeah.
we understand
I
where you're coming
understand.
from, but we'd rather have more of kind of a discussion and a heart-to-heart rather than having that there. And if there's no objection, I'll make the packet a part of the record. Is that okay with everybody? Can I have a motion to do that?
I motion to make the packet.
All right, and second?
Second.
All right, all opposed, like sign. All right, so your entire formal response will be made part of your objection.
Thank you.
So, yeah, that's fine. I mean, I want you to protect you on that end, but let's talk about what you're concerned about.
Okay. We bought our house, probably our final house in this neighborhood years ago. We've protected our neighborhood. We've watched out for it. We know every one of our neighbors. And my concern is that people will be coming and going from this house that we don't know. We have kids riding their bicycles in the street. We have kids playing in the streets. We don't know who's going to rent the house. We don't know if they have records. We don't know who they are. And we have to trust that you will do your background check. We have to rely on you to do it. I don't know. It's the unknown that scares us. The 2 cars in the driveway, I don't know. If people during Christmas festival, I think there's going to be more cars than you anticipate in the house. Visitors come and go. They have their vehicles. Our street can't handle more cars. It's just not possible. If the house is rented to young kids or somebody rents the house and lets young kids, teenagers, college students in the house, and they have parties, we call you, you're in Montgomery. That's a long way to come deal with the issue. We'll call the police will come, and then you still have to be notified. We don't want that responsibility to watch over that house and make sure that whoever's in the house is safe for our kids and safe in the neighborhood. That's a concern.
Well, let's let her finish, Dwayne, and then you're happy to I'm happy to let you have the floor, but let's make it flow smoothly. Just stick a pin in that, we'll get right back to you.
And I've never met Debbie and Virgil, and they seem like very nice people, and I'm sure they would do what they could to take care of the house and all. But again, it's Montgomery, it's a ways away. And we don't know who's going to rent the house from you. We don't have any kind of record of what kind of people they are. It just kind of opens the door to somebody sneak in and do something. I don't know. That's really the main concern.
Well, and I seem to, from reading your response, he also concerned that it was a commercial activity.
It
seemed to
is
be
a
one of the
commercial, it is a
tenants.
commercial activity in a residential neighborhood, and we're clearly, the laws forbid that, or they don't allow it. And it's a commercial activity, it's a money-making business, and not supposed to be there. It's a money-making business, and it's not authorized there.
All right.
Yes, sir, Mr. Lewis?
I just wanted to ask a question. Does everybody in here have kids? Kids? They left home? Have your kids left home? Or are they still at home? Come and go?
Yeah, we have grandkids at
Holidays?
home.
They come for the holidays? They drive? Okay. That's all.
Yes, sir. We,
That's it.
I have, Mr. Chairman, a couple
Yeah,
of
Mr.
questions.
Brown, go ahead, proceed.
Mr. Stedman, how long have you lived in this subdivision neighborhood?
21 years.
Do you feel like that you, in 21 years, have developed a sense of the character of the neighborhood?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And do you feel like what is proposed meets that criteria or description of what you would call the character of the neighborhood?
No, sir, it disrupts the character of the neighborhood. It's a B&B in our neighborhood. It's a licensed business in our neighborhood, and we're not zoned for that.
Are you aware of any other businesses of this character in your neighborhood?
I'm sorry, I didn't get that.
Are you aware of any other businesses of
No,
this
sir.
nature in your neighborhood?
No, sir.
Well, you're absolutely correct. If it changes the character of the neighborhood, that is a reason for denial, and we denied a 27-home development based on those grounds.
Yeah, and that's the strong objection.
Any more questions from Mr. Stedman, from commission members? All right, thank you, Ms. Stedman.
You're
Mr.
welcome.
Stedman, why don't you go ahead and follow up and tell us your thoughts? Please try not to trod the same trails, but take all the time you want. I said, please don't trod the same trails, but take all the time you want for any new stuff.
My main concern with, Dwayne Stedman's my name, and I live at 803 Whitfield. My main concern is, if y'all approve this, which these people are very nice people, if you approve this, it's gonna open a can of worms for the whole subdivision. Anybody that wants to put in an Airbnb or a B&B, it's gonna have to come to y'all. Then you have spot zoning. You can have a business, and houses and single families in it. That's my concern. The city council has nothing that says that you can't put that put a Airbnb or B&B in a residential subdivision. They have none. Y'all have to decide that. If you decide one, then get ready for some more, because they're gonna come, I'm sure. That's all I got to say.
Any questions from Mr. Stedman? All right. Would anyone else like to speak in opposition to the application of Arnold?
Chelsea DeWeese, we just moved into 802 Whitfield towards the end of the summer. Kind of talking about pulling at heartstrings. Bought the house, sight unseen. We lived in Monroe. Circumstances did not allow me to leave work to drive 2 hours to house search. My husband did most of that. Based on the integrity of this neighborhood that we were told by our realtor, who has been a prominent person in the community for years, went to NSU, works at NSU, from people that my husband knows through work and through sports that currently live in the neighborhood, everybody vouched the integrity of this community, the safety, and that's what drew me to say, I'm okay with this house, let's go with it, because options were limited for us. We looked at several other neighborhoods, several other houses, and it was, hairs on the back of your neck stand up and all the questions and I don't know. And this is the only house that I said, we looked at it the morning it came on the market. Our realtor got into it. We just did a FaceTime. We put an offer in that day. It was accepted later that afternoon and we ran with it. Best decision I could have ever made. People thought I was crazy buying a house sight unseen. But it's what I picture raising my children in. It's the neighborhood that I grew up in. It's the neighborhood that, I didn't grow up in this neighborhood, comparable to a neighborhood that I grew up in back in Texas, where, I would feel comfortable, my children playing in the yard with the neighbors. There's a couple houses down that have a 5-year-old and a 3-year-old. Their grandkids come over. We go swimming all the time. And I have this sense of peace and this sense of home. And with the Airbnb is almost directly across the way from us. So I have several safety concerns. And I'm just, yes ma'am, just reading a few things from what I found on the Airbnb website. Ms. Arnold pointed out that there are background checks and people are vetted, but straight from the Airbnb site, they do 10 days out, or if it's requested to be rented before then, it's less than 10 days from when they asked to book. It's only, hold on, baby, I'm sorry, y'all. And they only vet the person that's going down on the reservation. They don't vet the entire party per the Airbnb website underneath their background check rules. They can't verify whether the information that the person is booking the reservation for is even valid. They have to present a license, but there's no way to check that to see if it's valid or not. And according to Airbnb, why you can't rely on them alone, as far as the background checks go, it says there may be gaps in public records searches due to the way certain databases are maintained. Online databases might only be updated periodically by local governments, which Airbnb doesn't control or direct. As a result, these databases may not reveal comprehensive or recent criminal record activity. Continue to use your own judgment. So even though we vet, there could be criminal activity or criminal records of random people wanting to come into our neighborhood that we may not have any idea about. And I'm supposed to feel safe going out in my front yard with my 3-year-old and my 1-year-old to play in the afternoon if I see random cars all the time throughout whenever. We don't know when these people are coming. It's a little disconcerting, and it's not the neighborhood that I moved into. That's not what we wanted to turn into. I also looked up, again, the limitations of the background checks, and I won't read them all. You can search for yourself on Airbnb on the website, or I'm happy to email these screenshots that I took. But it goes under the scope of the search, an unknown number of guests. We also don't conduct background checks on people who stay with the guest who booked the accommodation. Only the guest who books will be checked as part of that reservation if we have the necessary information. Again, you can only do a background check on who's booking the reservation with what they provide for you. Very, very limited. It's not very detailed. Accuracy of user information, inconsistent reporting, the timing of when they book the reservation, incomplete search results, as I've recommended, or as I've stated previously, the criminal deceit. People may find ways to circumvent even the most sophisticated database or search technology. So even though, yes, we're saying we're booking to families and you can vet and be as specific, I guess, as you want, there's still all of this from the Airbnb website that states there's still so many more question marks as to the legitimacy of who you're renting to based on the information that they decide to provide to you. Again, as Ms. Arnold stated, she could rent up to 6 people. Well, the reservation is only under 1 person. You could have 2 different families, okay? So we have 2 different families. We're only vetting one of those people. And then, again, unknown number of guests on the booking. Even though there's only 6, who's to say other people aren't going to be invited to come and go during that time of the reservation? There's no way to say. So as a mom of 2 young daughters, it makes me very uncomfortable, for lack of better words. Again, that's not the neighborhood that I thought I would move into. I second Mr. Dwayne. Once you allow one into a residential neighborhood, it opens the floodgates for more to follow suit. I also did just some research, just blanket Airbnb and the prevalence of community integrity and neighborhood crime. Granted, Airbnb is still very new within the last 5 to 10 years. So no, that doesn't lead a lot of time and amount for research to be done. However, preliminary studies have been done and papers have been written to where it states that the integrity of the community has been disrupted, that it does allow that error of margin for criminal activity to increase, granted, over time. So looking at both sides, it's not going to happen immediately, but if we allow one Airbnb into the community over time, if we allow more and more, if one gets passed, then there's no precedence to say the next residential house won't get passed, then the next one won't get passed. So the research is saying, the more houses that you have approved in the community to be an Airbnb, again, over time, you're looking to open that Pandora's box of you don't know who is coming in at any given point in your neighborhood. And I bring that point up because we don't plan on moving. I plan on staying here, raising my children here. We are not leaving this community. This is our forever home until kids are gone and my husband and I decide whether or not we're moving out or staying. So this is very near and dear to my heart. And I'll just leave it at that.
Ma'am, did you hear the entirety of Mrs. Arnold's presentation?
I did, sir.
Would you agree with me when I say that it was very thorough, very organized, very well presented, included a lot of information?
She included a lot of information.
I mean, would you agree with my statement?
Sure.
Did that in any way change your mind about how you felt about this change in your neighborhood from the time you walked in?
No, sir. No, I feel very, very strongly about this. I understand wanting to offset income while we have two houses. The letter that Ms. Arnold passed out to the neighborhood at the end of September, yes, talked about the love for Natchitoches, and once we retire, we want to move here and this be our retirement home. Well, as stated today, they've already retired and already have one retirement home, and now here we are renovating this one to be a short-term rental. So it doesn't make sense. It could be very well put together. I'm sure they're very nice people. This is nothing against who they are as people. It's just kind of how this whole thing has trickled and gone about, at least since we've moved in. And it can be put together well, but I don't have a whole lot of faith or trust in what I've heard against, how I feel against what Airbnb shows as far as safety and all their regulations, and then how Mr. Whitehead said, present your case as far as, your personal touch to it. And I haven't heard anything to sway me otherwise.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
How long have you been in the neighborhood?
We just moved in end of July,
So you had less than a year?
like 2 months.
Okay.
All right, thank you, ma'am. We appreciate your time.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes, sir.
may I have permission to ask a question of all the people opposed to it? There would be a
Sure.
raise your
If you-
hand type question.
Sure. Sure.
Has
Thank you,
anyone
ma'am.
who
Say
walked
thank
through
you.
the doors tonight in opposition to this request, this application, changed your mind in any way that would be more in favor of this being approved? If so, please raise your hand. Thank you.
All right. I think what Mr. Brown was alluding to, I guess, why don't we get everybody that's opposed to it to come up, identify themselves, and say if they have anything to add to it? Is that kind of where you were hitting at, Ron?
Well, Primarily, I was wanting to know if.
They were any new?
Mrs. Arnold did have a very good presentation, and she had a lot of points, and I really wanted to know if everybody here in opposition to it continued to be in opposition after they
Heard that
the
presentation.
points.
Rather than the proxy last time.
Right.
Yeah, I understand. All right, well, why don't we hear from anyone else that objects to it? And just tell us in your own words, and try not to repeat the same thing the Stedmans and our other speaker had. And you can just say you agree with them and tell us where you live and move on if that's what you want to do, or you can say something else if you'd like to. But let's have every speaker add to what's happened.
My name is Kate Cummings. I live at 742 Whitfield. We moved there in June of last year. And I opposed this the first time. I stood up and spoke the first time. But really my takeaway isn't about the legitimacy of her application. I don't feel that it is a legitimate application because I feel like Natchitoches' statutes and such just don't really phrase themselves in a way that cover this. I believe Ms. Roque said that she's choosing to pay a higher tax in order to rent it out, but when I tried to research online, I couldn't find anything about this tax. And I'm not saying it doesn't exist, it's hard to educate ourselves. So coming from an outside point of view, it is hard to know what is involved in this.
Madam Director?
Okay, so the way we do our applications, every application that we have, we reference by our ordinance. So according to our ordinance, this application is still a single-family dwelling. Under an R1, with a special exception, a B&B is allowed.
Okay.
So that's what we based our information on. So if she had not said that she wanted to be a B&B, she still would have the right to rent her home any way she pleases. The only reason why we decided to do that special exception for her is because she indicated it was going to be a short-term rental. The tax commission themselves, because we have so many that are generating here in Natchitoches, they wanted to keep account.
Okay.
But if this had not happened the way it has, she could have easily done the same thing without coming before planning and zoning, without coming before city council. She still has the right to do so without anyone's approval. Even if this application is to be tonight, if she still wanted to move forward with this, she still could, without any question from anyone, without city council approval, without anything. She was doing what she thought would be right based upon what the tax commission and everyone else told her for tax reasons. Now, if you wanted to speak with the tax commission about that, you could, and they will let you know that specifically, because there are so many B&Bs, because there are so many short-term rentals, this is another income generator for them, because you have short-term rentals all through Natchitoches. So anyone who comes up and says, I want to rent my home, if you look on Natchitoches Times, you look in the journals, there's things everywhere for rent. But she's doing hers using that vehicle of a B&B to generate income.
And that is one of my concerns because it's not a long-term rental where the people who are renting
And
are
it doesn't
coming
have to
in.
be.
What I'm saying is though, with something like that, that is people who are coming into a neighborhood to be residents of that neighborhood.
Correct.
This is not this case. In a short-term rental, these are people who are coming for a hospitality type visit, as if they would
Correct.
in a bed and breakfast or a hotel. And our neighborhood is not a hospitality neighborhood. It's a
Right.
residential neighborhood.
But again, what you're missing here in planning and zoning, what we look at is just the ordinance. So everything that you're saying, that if you want change from the ordinance, would have to be addressed by city council. We only look at what's presented to us, we look at the facts, and we judge those two things. What she has in her application, every application that comes before us, we look at the ordinance. If it applies in the ordinance, then that's what we present. But your argument, the things that you're requesting from us is not what we can actually apply to.
Yes,
It would
ma'am.
have to go through city council if that's what the commission chooses.
Yes, ma'am. And my point was more or less that it was not information that was freely easy to get. So it has required a lot of digging and a lot of trying to educate myself on the way that Natchitoches does things and finding that Natchitoches does not really have a lot on the books about short-term rentals specifically.
No, not
It does-
specifically,
It
no.
does have for bed and breakfast, but not short-term rentals, and those are two different things. I understand that it is her house and she has the right to do with it as she pleases, but it is still our neighborhood.
It is.
And we do feel that it infringes on the quality of our neighborhood. The fact that she could continue to do it is really disconcerting, and I do appreciate that she came through it with this manner. But it still feels as though it was done with a little bit of disregard, because the house was purchased under an LLC with the intent to do a short-term rental. So she always walked into it with this intention of renting this house as an Airbnb. If she would have canvassed the neighborhood before, she'd have known that there was a large opposition, and it would have prevented the LLC in all of this. But ultimately, I agree with what they had said, and I don't want to repeat it all, but I feel as though this is detrimental to the character of the neighborhood. I do worry that it is a slippery slope, that once you allow one, you start allowing others because of precedent. Looking on all of the different short-term rental websites, hers is the only one listed in St. Clair Estates. There are no others until you get right on top of the river at the other end. And ultimately, we're just not a mixed zone area. We are a single-family residential area. The houses in our neighborhood are for single families of any age, but ultimately, it's for residents. It's not for people who are looking for a hospitality stay.
But again, like you said, it is a single family. That's what is classified according to our ordinance. It is still a single family. And I do understand what you're saying, but you also have to understand our point, or at the planning and zoning point, because it's still classified as a single family dwelling.
It is, and not to bring in semantics, but in an email, I had asked you what this would involve, and you had said that, and I apologize if I'm repeating this wrong, you had said that she had applied for like a home occupation
Not a home
license, or it was something along those lines.
She came in to do a CO, which is a certificate of occupancy. So that's when you come in, and anybody that does anything, you come in, you get your electricity changed and things of that nature, yes.
Okay. I apologize then, because I believe that the email had said that she had applied for a home occupation license of that nature, because I remember I looked into it, and that just didn't feel like it fit either. But if that was the case, or if it was a misunderstanding on my part, I can disregard that. Ultimately, it comes down to, we don't want this in our neighborhood. I feel like we've spoken very loudly about that. We've been adamant that we don't feel it fits. We worry about our kids, and I'm sure she would do the very best she can, even with background checks. That's assuming the person has a record that they've been caught before. There's too many variables, and I believe it was Ms. Stedman who said, it's not our responsibility to babysit the people who rent the house to make sure. She's not here. She's 45 minutes away. It's a liability that our neighborhood doesn't want.
I understand. So if someone else, let's say that she was not doing a B&B, as she's stating, but she just wanted to rent her home without the money vehicle, would you still feel the same way?
If she was
anyone
renting it
decided just to
long-term?
rent it, period.
If it was long-term for the sake of residents,
But my thing is, how would you know it's long-term or short-term?
eventually we would notice that there are people moving in and out on a weekly or bi-weekly basis, and that would also raise concern in the neighborhood. We notice when there are new vehicles. We notice when people who are normally there aren't there for long periods of time. And this is just another variable that shouldn't be our responsibility to keep an eye on parties or noise ordinances or anything. We already, I think there's already a string of car break-ins and people walking the streets at night opening cars. We don't want to invite in more variables that we can't control. And that's ultimately the concern. I worry about how it would impact the value of the neighborhood. I worry about how it would impact safety in the neighborhood. And, you know, this entire thing is to hear what the neighborhood's opinion of it is, and our neighborhood is saying no.
All right, any questions for this lady from the commission members?
Sorry.
That's okay. Hearing none, is there anyone who else wants to speak in opposition to the application of Arnold?
Good evening. I'm Verna Bolden. I'm here with my husband, Mac Bolden, and we have lived at 795, which is directly next door to the Arnold's home. And I have a question of the commission.
All right?
Do we have a right to say no?
Do you have a right to say no?
Do we have a legal right for the majority to be heard, to object?
That's not, it's not a head count, if that's what you're asking, Ms. Bolden. I mean, we can always hear from whoever wants to speak. You know, even if they're non-citizens, if they've got some interest, we're gonna hear from
Okay.
everybody, but it's not a head count. We don't stack 14 up on one side and 13 on the other and say, you missed it by that much.
So the majority doesn't rule?
That is correct.
Okay. So then my concern is before, and again, just like everybody else, I have nothing against anybody here. Certainly not you people. I don't even know you, and I'm sure everything, I read your letter, it was very warm. But I live right next door, and I have a concern that if my neighbors sell their house next door to us or across the street from us, and somebody sees that they're rolling and doing really well with their Airbnb, that they might decide that they want to do the same thing, then what happens to the neighborhood? What about us? I'm asking you, what about us?
Then that law.
I mean, everybody has the right to be heard. You know, one thing I haven't heard anybody talk about in this deal, we don't enforce subdivision restrictions, the private covenants on your deed, for your unit. But, you know, I'm pretty sure that, it's been a while since I looked at those, I'm pretty sure they prohibit commercial activity. But we don't get involved in that. That's private contract between you and the other 35 owners of your particular unit of St. Clair. The developer put those in place, and those are private contracts between the developer and the people that own it. So if there's a violation of that, we don't get involved in the enforcement of private contracts between private individuals. So, I mean, it doesn't matter what we do, if we approve something that you find egregious and say you think it's a violation of the subdivision restrictions, y'all got a perfect right to go over here to the courthouse and say this woman or this LLC is engaging in a commercial activity and it's prohibited by whatever provision of the covenants. I mean, I want to be clear, we don't take sides with regard to your private covenants that you all entered into.
Okay.
So, I mean, I just want you to separate that in your mind. All we're doing is doing what the code allows us to do, not what your private agreements are.
I think I kind of understand what you just said, but my question.
Everybody, we're the final arbiters of whether or not we're the final arbiters until it gets to the city council about whether we feel it's in compliance, if the variance is requested is appropriate or inappropriate.
Okay.
And then the oversight by that is the city council. They oversight us. And then in theory, the mayor oversights them in the fact that he can veto their action, and then they can override his veto. And then from that point on, the only resolution with regard to planning and zoning is to take it over to the courthouse, and you've got to prove abuse of discretion, which is terribly horrible.
So we would have to make it into a legal fight?
With regard to the covenants, we have nothing to do with that. It starts over there.
Yeah, yes, you would.
Through this process, if you're unhappy with what the city council and the mayor do, then your next stop is over there as well.
So when you guys make your decision on this, you just make a recommendation to the council?
No, ma'am, we pass, it's approved.
It's approved or disapproved here.
And then they take it up automatically. I agree with you that it probably ought to be done that way, but our ordinances are 70 years old, and it basically goes up to them, and they then approve it or disapprove it.
Then I have another question.
Sure.
As it relates to the letter that Carol brought in, did that really disprove the right to someone to come into a neighborhood, an established neighborhood, and change the zoning to commercial?
But
usage?
it's not commercial. You see, it's a special exception under residential.
Okay, what's under, and that's my question, what's under special exceptions? Is it a long list or just a short list?
It's whatever we feel is appropriate for the neighborhood. And I think that's been the point of Mr. Brown's comments, is that it may be different in different places.
So when you say it's, I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
So when you say, when we deem it's appropriate, how many of you live in our community?
All of us.
So you would decide for all of us that it's okay to have businesses in a residential community?
Can I make a comment?
Yes, please.
If I'm not mistaken, there's one business that I know of that's in the 800 block. It's a craft business. It's not a B&B or short-term rental. It's a craft business. The lady makes arrangements and things like that. Not anymore. Well, at one, let me rephrase that then. At one time, there was a craft shop in the 800 block that was there for a period of a couple of years.
Okay.
Because I bought different items as gifts from that craft shop. And it operated there in the neighborhood as a business with a special exception, if I'm not mistaken.
You know, if we.
It wasn't a B&B, it wasn't short-term rental.
Okay.
But it was a business.
Okay, thank you. And I mean, if I were voting on something like that, I wouldn't have a problem with that. I really wouldn't. But we're talking about people living there, and we're talking about changing the whole landscape of what we purchased our houses to be, and this would change it. It would open the door, it would set precedents. If there was only going to be one and they said never anybody else, and she's really going to vet these people very well, and we kind of can keep this safe, but there's no way we can do that. Once a precedent has been set, anybody can do it almost. That's my comments. Thank you for listening.
So
problem.
technically,
Just
you're
one
looking at
second. Any
the
questions,
B&B
Ms.
as a,
Bolton?
you're looking at the B&B as a business.
Yes.
Okay. If we throw the B&B out the window and she advertises in the paper and puts it in all over the place and she can rent whatever she wants, it's not a business anymore.
As
She
long
has
as
the
it's a
right to do
short
that.
term, though, as long as it's a short-term rental, we're still dealing with the same issue.
Yeah, but like our.
A lot of
ordin-
different
like-
people.
Like we're stuck with our ordinances that you're allowed, anybody in that neighborhood's allowed, y'all can rent it for short-term, long-term, and we have no say-so about that whatsoever.
I mean, this is, if I'm not mistaken, this is an effort by the city to capture and regulate these things, isn't it?
It is.
Rather than to have them run rogue and have some backroom network rather than an Airbnb. And do these things pay, when they go through this way, they pay the hotel motel tax?
They do.
I think, yeah, and so they're trying to capture.
Capture and
tax
regulate.
dollars. Yeah, they're trying to capture.
And regulate.
Yeah.
Any questions, Ms. Bolden?
Well, Ms. Bolden has one last question.
Sure.
Has the decision already been made?
Well, no, that's why we're having a discussion right
Just asking.
I think that's, Ms. Bolden, I think that's very disrespectful. Everybody up here serves for free. They come, no ma'am, you sit back down. We come up here, we work for free, we try to take care of this, and for you to insinuate that we have somehow violated the sunshine law, because I don't think that's what you understood you were just saying.
Well, it's possible.
Well, you're making an allegation that we violated. Well, anything's possible, sir. But no, to sit up here from that ambo and accuse us of possibly violating the sunshine law and coming up with a decision before this, and that this is just some kind of farce, and that we're not here sitting listening to people, I take personal offense for myself and my commissioners. Because,
up there and say something? Because you have accused me of something that just.
well, you just asked, if you're not, I want to hear you explain what you meant about having already made our decision.
I don't even know what the sunshine law is. I have no idea, ever heard that term before. I had no intention of insulting you or this board. My question, I don't know how this works. I'm a novice here. I did not know how this works. And yes, it is possible for the decision to have already been made. I actually heard that there are entities, there are committees where the decision is made and it's just a check off to have the people show up. My question was not an accusation, it was really a question.
Well,
I just asked.
My comment to you is if you have credible information that there are public bodies making decisions prior to public meetings, making the decisions in the back, as a citizen, you have a responsibility to turn that over to the district attorney, because that's a crime punishable by jail time. And public officials that aren't taking their jobs as serious as my people are should not be serving in positions.
Then let me respond to that. What Mrs. Rock said was that she can do it anyway. That tells me that there might not have been a reason for us to be here.
Absolutely. I agree. We all agree. But that means we haven't made a decision ahead of time, just because she can do it. I'm here to listen, to be an independent voice.
And we appreciate that.
But I mean, what I was saying about the B&B, the decision is she can do it whether we can deny the B&B. I mean, we say, I deny the B&B. She's not allowed to do that. Then she can go home and advertise it, and we can't stop her. It's just like. What's that?
Would it be against the law?
No, it would not be against the law.
Okay.
She's, according to our ordinances, she's allowed to.
She would
rent
be
it.
allowed to do it. Then my question is,
But now,
why
can
are
she
we
do
here?
it? Can she do it as a B&B?
She can't do it.
Maybe
through
cannot do it as a
Airbnb.
B&B.
Through Airbnb.
Yeah, through Airbnb.
She could still do exactly what she's attempting to do or asking to do, but just not without the approval of this committee.
Airbnb, correct.
Or using the vehicle.
Or
of
using the-
Airbnb,
using the vehicle
or
of the
VRBO,
Airbnb.
Or any
Yeah.
of those other platforms.
Correct.
Yeah.
Well, I did not intend to insult you or anyone.
Well,
I just
and I-
really seriously asked, maybe a naive question, but really asked a
But
question.
my people spend a lot of time, we try to be arm's length about it, we try to spend our time here, and I'm sorry if I got upset, but you were unbeknownst. What's that? You're not hurting my feelings, I'm more mad for my commissioners because we work really hard. And we do not talk amongst ourselves in a quorum outside the public view, because that's what the Sunshine Law says. You cannot discuss something that is going to be voted on by a quorum of members.
You're talking
Outside
to,
the public view. It's got to be right here. We got to have discussions here.
this is information, this is news to me. Never heard of the Sunshine Law. And I did not intend to insult you.
But I'm serious. If you know of somebody that is making decisions outside the public purview, that is a serious crime, and they do not need to be public servants anymore.
Thank you for hearing me.
Anyone else want to speak on behalf of the application of, in opposition to the application of You're from Winfield, you can hold your own. Mr. Jones?
Carl Jones at 417 St. Clair Avenue. I just wanted to say that, and maybe sum it up unless somebody else is brave enough to get up here. Every person that we talked to and could reach said no to this application. I think we got 140-something signatures. Not everybody is always home at this time of year. I even talked to people who own these type of properties, and they signed the petition and said it doesn't belong in a residential subdivision. They have properties where everybody else has them, over in the historic district, down the river, and we've been told by realtors that our subdivision is really the only one that this is not going on in, and we want to keep it that way. We bought those houses, we bought those lots, we built those houses in good faith that it would be a neighborhood and we wouldn't have businesses and I say, you can say what you want to, a short-term rental is a business. It's that simple. Maybe our rules don't say it, but it is. It's an investment to earn money. We invested to have a home and a neighborhood and raise a family and feel safe and feel comfortable. and to know our neighbors. We don't want to live in a commercial environment. If we did, we'd all be living in them already. It's that simple. And if it's not regulated, then it should be regulated. The city should do something about it. And we all appreciate the
Well, and I
bed
tell
and
you, Carl-
breakfasts and
and
everything
I tell you, Carl,
else.
they're having problems all throughout the southeast over
We
this
know
stuff.
that.
You know, the US Fifth Circuit just knocked
know.
down a deal in New Orleans and basically told them you need to license this and you need to regulate it. But you can't regulate it like this.
No.
And so, you know.
Maybe if you license and regulate it, maybe it wouldn't be as lucrative as people think it is. That's one way to stop it, make them pay.
Any
It
questions?
sure cost us.
Any questions for Mr. Jones? All right,
And, you know,
thank you.
everybody said no. Nobody stuttered. And some of those folks couldn't make it to this meeting because they're older people and they can't get out.
Thank you, Carl. Anyone else want to speak in opposition to application of Arnold? All right, hearing none, Ms. Arnold, would you have a brief rebuttal?
Just a few comments, and I think we've already kind of talked about this, but as far as commercial quote-unquote activity, I'm not a lawyer, but all the research I've done is this is not currently considered commercial activity in the state of Louisiana. It is in some other states, and it does not require a business license. I could have done this without having an LLC and just done it under my name. The neighborhood covenant, I have never seen one, so I'm not sure what it says. If anyone has a copy of that, I'd love to be able to look at it. Yes, it's income producing. We'll never make a profit on it because it's not something that we intend to do long-term. We've put a significant amount of money into the home. We'll never get that back, and that really wasn't the intent. It was just to help offset the mortgage and the taxes for a little while. As to visitors coming to the home, when I say only 6 people are allowed in the home, if only 2 people are on the reservation, then only 2 people are allowed in the home. They will not be allowed to bring in visitors who are not listed on the reservation by name. Not expecting anyone to babysit my home, and if that's what I inferred, that was not what I meant. That's the reason for the security cameras. We'll be monitoring our own home. We'll see on the doorbell who comes and goes. We'll see the back door. We'll see the garage door. So I don't need anyone to babysit the home for me. That's what we're going to be doing with security cameras. As far as the limitation on background checks, I actually have a long history in human resources. So yes, that is accurate. Background checks are not always 100% accurate. The other thing that I was doing was looking to see if the guest had any other reviews and basing it on their previous reviews, which to me, previous practice means future practice. The final thing that I would like to say is I do feel a little bit like my integrity was challenged on one comment about my letter saying that when we retire, and now me saying we have retired, I actually have the letter, and it says, "I've retired last year, and we have been living in what had been our fishing camp at Natchitoches Lake." Never did I say that we had not yet retired. Whatever the council deems appropriate with your decision, I will fully support. I do fully support the opinions of the neighbors, and if you do approve it, I'm going to do my very best to make sure that this does not damage the character of the neighborhood, and I'd be very interested in participating in ordinance development or whatever for the future to, try to make it where the neighborhood wouldn't be able to have these other than mine. And if mine gets phased out because of that, then so be it. Thank you.
I have one question for you.
Okay.
How many days out of a year do you plan on renting the property? Just a rough estimate.
I would guess, so during the Christmas season, probably every weekend, and then, so however many that is, 6 or 7 probably. And then I think the other activity would be whenever there are festivals here, so I haven't counted those up, but I'm guessing maybe half the weekends in the year at the most.
So you're saying 26 weekends?
I would
But
say-
that's weekends, not weeks, right?
Weekends.
Just like 2 days?
Right, yeah, I do have a maximum stay of 14 days, but
Okay.
I think that would be very rare that someone would be here and just come for more than the weekend, unless they were working here or, you know, the hospital needed a place for a physician or somewhere to stay.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, ma'am. Discussion by commission members.
Neighborhoods tend not to change overnight. Small changes made on one street, 6 months later, next street over, small change is made. 5 years later, you wake up and realize you're not in the same neighborhood that you moved into. I personally would not like to have this type of facility next door to me. For one thing, I would be concerned about my property value, as well as the concerns that everyone here has had. But the main point is it does not fit the character of this neighborhood, this subdivision. Therefore, I am opposed to it, and will make a motion to that effect if it's the appropriate time.
All right. Anyone else? Discussion by other commission members.
I'd just like to say that the ordinances that we have to deal with right now, been on the books for a little while. There is a councilman from this district. There is a councilman at large that could put some teeth in what needs to be done. But we can only operate according to the ordinances that we have to operate with. I don't see the councilman from this district here. I don't see the councilman at large. They could do more for this situation by putting some teeth in a new ordinance in order to take care of some of the things that need to be taken care of with short-term rentals. But that's all I have to say right now.
All right. Mr. Lewis, you had something you'd like to say?
As I see it, I understand your concerns. Like Ron said, things change in neighborhoods continually. As far as the visitors in the neighborhood, nobody has control over that. You know, you can't tell who's your visitor or who's your visitor. But as far as the ordinance, only thing we can do is go by the book. You know, you can always go to the city council to get changes, like Mr. Claiborne said. As far as I see it, it's the only thing we can do here is go by the book.
Any other discussion by commission members?
Well, I'm kind of like Ron. Our ordinance does say that, you know, she can rent it if she wants to. So I don't see why we have to make a special exception for that. And if city council wants to check on that, they can check on that. In other words, the ordinance says that like we've discussed, I asked my question, you know, as far as making a special, we shouldn't even be here making a special exception for that. That's my take.
Any other discussion by commission members? Motion by Mr. Brown.
I'll second.
Motion to approve.
But Mr. Brown had asked the right to make the motion. So you have the motion to make, or you yield that back?
I move that we deny the application.
I second.
Motion by Brown to deny, second by McAllister. Let's have a roll call, Ms. Oaks. A vote yea is a vote to deny. Is Ms. Oaks over there? No. No? I'm sorry.
Mr. Whitehead,
No, he's
I
not
don't
gonna
vote
do
except
that.
in the case of a tie.
Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Claiborne,
Yes to deny.
Mr. Lewis,
No.
Mr. McAllister,
Yes.
Nope, got
We got Mr. Johnson.
Ms. Johnson. Ms.
Mr. Johnson, how do you vote?
I vote yes.
That's a vote to deny.
Right.
All right, and then Ms. Blake.
Yes.
All right, so that's a 4-2 to deny the application. That will be placed on the city council's agenda for review on the 10th, and then for final passage on the 24th. So I'd suggest everyone that's interested attend those things.
Say that again?
I thought we had two, did we have 2 yays? 5-1, then 5-1. Ms. Oaks has left me here, she keeps track of that, she left me in the lurch here. But in any event, it was, it passed for a denial. So, that, why don't we take a 2-minute break and let the audience clear out, if that's what y'all want to do, since I figure that's what most of the people are here for. I call back to order the City of Natchitoches Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. Excuse me. Roman numeral 5, new business.
Thank you, Mr.
The application by Mr. James Dordelon to rezone the following location bearing 190 feet north side of Mill Street is shown on plat in Conveyance Book 317, page 884 of the records of Natchitoches Parish, Louisiana, from B3 commercial to B3 commercial with additional BA zoning. The reason for a multi-purpose venue restaurant, 104 Mill Street, exhibit number 2 in Commissioner's packet, Councilperson District number 4 in your packet. A quick summary by the director.
Oh, okay, so this is the L.H. Johnson building on Mill Street. They've bought it and they are wanting to use it for a restaurant. They just recently came before us, they wanted to do a BA zoning for the consumption of alcohol on premise. We don't have anything else just yet from them, but they're wanting to move forward with at least getting their BA license.
Do we have, you had provided me with a proposed layout. Looks to me like they're gonna be horribly deficient in parking. Is it the intention to take this up with a BA and approve that so maybe they can get financing? And
I think so.
But they can't get a CO until they have a conforming plat, correct?
Right, they can't get a CO until they become in compliance with everything that we
Okay.
require.
All right. Would Mr. Dornlaw or his representative come forward?
Hello, my name is James Dortland. I purchased the L.H. Johnson building, and we're trying to get it for a multi-purpose building, a venue, and a restaurant.
And all you're asking for today is a rezone to take the additional BA zoning on there?
Correct.
And you understand that the director is going to withhold your certificate of occupancy until you come up with some type of form and plan for parking?
Well, I mean, we have had an architect draw the parking out for it.
And I'm looking at it, it looks like it's about 60 short.
Well, the other option that we've kind of kicked around as well is there's parking across the street that the city has. That the Flying Heart Brewery is, the city's allowed them to park there. That could also be an option for overflow parking.
It's not overflow parking, Mr.
Or
Dorton.
additional parking.
It's compliant parking.
Okay.
I mean, there's a difference. I mean, you've got to have it, and I mean, we'll have to look at that and see. I mean, I just want to make you aware of that. I mean, the city can share parking across the way, but once they start committing those parking spots 3 and 4 times, then they become meaningless.
Right.
And so, have you talked with anybody at the city about, the mayor, anybody, Randy LeCaz, or anybody?
We have mentioned it to them about that, and I mean, we haven't come to no full-on agreement as far as, yes or no.
Well, of course, you'll have to have a written agreement with them before we can approve it, so, I mean, I've got no problems with taking this forward with the understanding that you've got to come up with some compliant parking deal. I mean, I don't want you to think that we're gonna issue you a BA and then you're good to go. I've talked with the director about it. I mean, it's really sort of against my thoughts to take this up without a compliant drawing, but as long as you understand, that's the way it's gonna be administered, I don't have a big problem. I mean, we'll hear from the folks, but usually we don't like to take these things up piecemeal.
All right.
You understand what I'm saying? I mean, what are you gonna do? What are you gonna do if you can't get enough parking? You gonna come back to us, ask us to waive parking?
Well, no, I don't think I would ask you to waive parking, but, I mean, it's, I don't know exactly what the ordinance is of how many parking spots I'm
I
short.
think 100 is what you gotta have, isn't it?
Hold on, let me pull it up.
Isn't it about,
What was your square footage?
So many square foot, yeah.
What was the square footage of the building?
The entire building square footage is 12,000 square feet.
12,000?
Yeah, the entire structure.
That's 120.
But is that for a restaurant or for the entire structure?
I mean, it's just one of those things, Mr. Dortlaw, I mean, we'll try to do everything we can, but I mean, when you bought this property, that was my first concern when I saw it come across the legal news, is that they don't have enough parking to do hardly anything.
Is this on the corner from Miami?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am. This is L.H. Johnson Wholesale on Mill Street. But anyway, I mean, we could always do it like we did Ivan Smith before you got here, is we can address, we address part of it as storage and part of it as floor space.
Talking about I think I've just gotten here for that.
Yeah, I mean, that's the way we did it. And I think we did one of those parts houses out there that was the old lumber yard, is that
We did it for Hobby Lobby.
Yeah, and Hobby Lobby as well, is that we divided it up, so it's not, but I would imagine the number's gonna be between 80 and 100, even after we try to work the pencil wedge as hard as we can.
Have you decided on what type of, it's gonna be paved, gravel, or have you decided on that? Have you talked to DOTD about the parking on the front of the building?
I mean, the side of the building, we're talking about that day doing paved, and the entire back doing gravel.
And when you say this, okay, the side being between you and the fort?
Correct.
Okay.
And then the back part of the parking lot being gravel.
You got room on the back of the building? You talking about the back of the building?
Yes, sir.
There you go.
And how many existing parking places is it got right now? Not many, huh?
Oh, hardly any at
I
all.
can say, yeah, if they just park in the front and, I don't know how much land you got on the side of it.
They got virtually no land in the front.
Yeah, no land in the front, and how about on the side? They come off a little bit where they can make diagonal parking, but maybe.
It looks like about, they sent a drawing that I get, we didn't put in the packet because it's very preliminary,
Yeah.
but it looks like it's somewhere between 39 and 41 parking
spaces.
spots.
And it needs.
Not including the front. They're showing the front on there, but they're showing ownership, you know,
But it's gonna-
two-thirds
it's gonna
of it
need-
being in the highway.
If it's gonna need at least 80 at minimum.
Well, if it's 120,000.
It's supposed to be 120, but I mean.
So it's 120, if we cut some out for the kitchen and storage and that kind of stuff, you know, we can probably squeeze it down some, but I bet it's not much below 85 or 80, and he's got 41 right now. I mean, that's extremely problematic. But we'll, does anybody else want to speak on behalf of the application of Dort Lawn? Any opposition to the application of Dort Lawn?
My name is Marion Salter, and I live at 114 South Williams. And if you draw a line across from L.H. Johnson to my house, I'm within 200 feet of the property, to tell you how close that I am to the property. I want the commission and Mr. Dortland to know that both my husband and I are not opposed to what you are asking for the BA. I don't have any problem with that. What I am here for is to talk to the commission. I have served on the Planning and Zoning Commission in the past, and we have done this in the past. I am asking the commission to, if they want to approve it, that's fine, but to please put in there the stipulation that this property will revert back to just a commercial B3 should, for some unknown reason, that Mr. Dortlawn and his partners decide they do not want to involve themselves in this operation of the business. As a consideration to the neighborhood across the river from them, I think this would be a nice gesture. What we are trying to prevent is that if for some reason they should leave the property, that this would automatically have that BA zoning, that a nightclub or a bar could automatically go in with no opposition or have any conversion with the commission. So that is all that I am asking for, is that you put a reversion, that it goes back to a B3 should they leave the premises. And also, just for observation, if you ever are over at the brewery on a Friday or Saturday night, there is no parking when you go there right now. We've been there ourselves, and you can't find a place to park, just FYI. So there are going to be some issues there, but I am not opposed to what you're asking for tonight.
Just for your edification, Ms. Salter, this is in the dry part of the city that is now in the local historic district. All that can operate there is a restaurant. Is that correct, Ms. Rock? There's no nightclub, no bar, no nothing like that can go in there.
Okay, well, that's fine, but I still would like to see the reversion.
So is the reversionary based on the ownership or the operation?
On the operation of it. I mean, if he decides he doesn't want to do that, you know, what's to say somebody else, some new idea may come up, you know?
Well, if he fails to operate it for 60 days, he loses it anyway.
So if he leaves the premises for 60 days, though, 60
If he
days.
fails to operate it under his BA for 60 days, he loses it by right. In fact, we have an application here tonight where somebody did that and wanted to go back into operation, and Ms. Rock told him, no, you got to come back and get your BA zoning back.
Right, but what would prevent somebody else from coming in within those 60 days?
Within those 60 days and opening a restaurant? Nothing.
Right.
But opening a bar? No, not allowed, not zoned for it, under the 47 resolution. The only reason they get to serve alcohol over there is that we have extended the local historic district to take in the
Right.
Archer Daniel Midland, and they're only allowed to do that in restaurants.
Right, okay.
I mean, what you're concerned about cannot happen if they go through
Okay.
her to get certificates of occupancy.
Okay,
Because
that's
you've
fine.
got to go, I mean, I understand where you're coming from, but this
Okay.
is a unique piece of property in the sense that, but for us extending the local historic district, they couldn't do this there.
Right.
They couldn't do
Understand.
anything.
I understand. Okay,
Yeah.
that's
All right.
fine.
Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate you coming. Appreciate your service. Anyone want to speak in opposition to the application of Dort Law? Discussion by commission members.
I'd like to see something about parking.
Okay. You want to put that in the form of a motion to table this until we see a parking plan?
Make that motion.
Motion by Mr. Lewis.
Second.
Second by Mr. Claiborne. All in favor of tabling the motion until we have a comprehensive parking plan? Say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, like sign. All right, well, Mr. Dordalon, the commission just says they're not going to take it up because they're concerned about whether or not you can comply at all. So I suggest that you call Mr. Lacaz in the morning and see what you can do about trying to allay their fears that we can adequately give you allow you to do what you want to do. And probably better on you that you not keep pushing this rock up the hill if you can't do it. And we just have to fall back and regroup and try to help you figure something else out. All right? And that will not be put on. Tabling it will not, is not movement that will put it on the
No,
agenda.
it won't
Okay.
move any further.
Roman numeral 5, new business, subsection C, the application by Dr. Randaz Matuire to rezone and to subdivide the following Lot 15 and a portion of Lot 14, Block B of Keegan's East Natchitoches subdivision from R1 to residential and B1 commercial to B2 commercial. The reasons for resale of 329 Keegan Street, exhibit number 3 in Commissioner's packet, councilperson district number 1, a brief summary by the director.
All right, so hold on a minute. Mr. Matuire is actually purchasing a piece of property from the tax commission. One piece of the land is zoned R1 and another piece is zoned B1. He's wanting to have both pieces rezoned for B2 for the purpose of resale. Is that close enough, Mr. Matuire, or?
I think one portion of the land remain R1
It is
with
gonna-
the house.
Yeah, the 15A1, which is about 20.22 acres or something like that,
It's-
where the house is now.
Well, the house is 20, the whole lot right now is 23,696 square feet.
22.22 acres is about 9,000 square feet. That'd be
I
about what
thought you said 22 acres, that's why.
No, .22
I said,
acres.
no, I thought we were talking about.
.22 acres.
I got you.
And so, if the commissioners would look, you've got the long plat in your, those two long plats in your packet. This triangular piece, which is between the current lot 15 and the tax commission, and actually there's a sewer lift station about where those words lot 14A is. The tax commission has agreed to cut off, I don't know, 1,200 square feet, is that? No.
Approximately.
1,200 square feet, that triangle, and add it to Dr. Matuire's lot and give you a new lot, and then he's gonna take that lot and divide it in, I guess, 60% fronting on east and Scarborough, and then the balance of the .22 acres being the wood frame residence that'll face Keegan. And that'll give him an appropriate setback in the back, Ms. Ryan. So on the existing structure, he'll be compliant in size and setbacks. And the new structure, it appears, on what he intends on doing, will be compliant with the parking and the setbacks, is that right?
It will.
And fortunately, the parking is, and it looks like access is from Scarborough, is that correct, Dr. Matoyer?
That's
There'll
my
be
plan.
no access from East Fifth?
No access from East Fifth, and certainly no access from Keegan.
Yeah.
Some concern.
One of the things I did in reviewing your application, it doesn't look like you're gonna do anything, but it looks like that triangle is still subject to it. The triangle you're acquiring, still subject to a right of the city if they need to get there and service that substation.
Whatever they need to do.
Well, but
Yeah,
it looks
I'm just
like
saying,
they.
I don't know
looks
if
like
we sold it as a right of way, but again, I don't plan on building on it.
No,
That's just
and-
some
no,
extra,
I
just to square off the
Just
lot.
pointed out to you, it looks like they service it from the other end anyway.
Yes, sir.
But it was a very vague, the city retained a very vague, we can do whatever we need to do to service that substation when they sold that property to the tax commission.
I understand.
And do you know what kind of business you're gonna put in here, Dot?
No, sir, I want to entertain possibilities. Like I said, the kid in me want to put an ice cream shop, the adult in me wants to do a Sylvan Learning Center. I used to teach ACT prep courses during medical school. I enjoyed doing that, wanted to get back in that again. The concerned citizen in me wouldn't mind being a police substation, so we have some more police presence on that side of town. I don't have anything whatsoever as to what to do, but we can't consider any of the possibilities because it's zoned R1.
Actually, I think a police substation is allowed in R1, but this will give you the flexibility. It doesn't mean that you can't put a police substation in.
I'm open to
in a-
anything right now, just trying to
Okay,
fix up the house and move on.
all right. Any questions for Dr. Matoyer from commission members? Are you gonna speak? Are you gonna speak in opposition to it, Ms. Snowden?
Not really, I just hope, I'm not positive that he's referring to the property next to me or not, but I live on East Fifth Street.
This is on the corner of Scarborough and East Fifth, right next to the tax commission. It's right across the street from you.
Straight across the street from me,
That's what I'm saying. Yes, ma'am.
Well, I hope whatever you put there is gonna be quiet, because after about 11 o'clock at night, I don't want to know it.
Oh.
And the hooping and hollering and cursing is going on, I don't want that, I've never had that.
Well, look,
I've been over there since 1953. I've been there a long time, but I bet you I've never heard, nobody in the neighborhood can say I raised a lot of H, if you wanna look at it that way.
well, this is what, I don't know what we're gonna have there. I can tell you what we're not gonna have there. We're not gonna have that. You know, I'll be the first one to say, I don't want any night business. I don't want a Taco Bell there where it's a drive-through all night long. That's not my intention of doing anything like that.
Do they have a place for alcohol in it?
No, ma'am, you're not allowed alcohol. The church is right next door. You can't have alcohol if I wanted to. So we can't do anything like that.
All right. Anybody want to speak on behalf of the application of Matoyer?
I have a question, for Lynn. Now, you're taking this back part of the property, right? And you're going to zone it, you want to zone commercial.
Yes, ma'am.
And now the front part, you're going to rent it out,
Or sell it, whatever.
rent it out.
Rent it or sell it.
So, I mean, now, explain to me for the parking for that front part that's already on
The front part on Keegan, I'm having a driveway poured tomorrow. She uses,
You're gonna have one parking if you rent to college students?
there plenty of parking for college students, just depending on how many people we're talking about. I don't want to do.
The reason I'm saying that, I don't wanna be, you know, all over line, but we have a bunch of rental on that. And right now, I wanna know, you know, with that area, are they gonna be parking on the street, or are you gonna have enough parking for them to pull inside the yard? Since you're,
Let me say,
since you're cutting this off on the back part, that's my question.
all right, this is what I'll say. I want you to judge me on past performance. And if you look at any of my houses on Carver Street, got about 10 houses on there. You don't see a single car parked on the street. I've created parking on the rear so you don't even park in front of the houses. I have no intentions of people parking on the street. I don't allow my tenants to park on the street. Now, ideally, it would be nice if a husband and wife and a couple of kids moved in there, and I don't even, that's not even an issue. But generally speaking, they don't park there. I think I have a policeman in one of the houses, and he'll park his cruiser out front, and that's brand new. But I've never, yeah. No, I don't allow, there's plenty of place to park in the back. I'm not trying to encourage that, because I don't want people coming with more than 2 or 3 cars. There's plenty of parking in the garage and driveway and on the side to do that. But I'm not trying to accommodate 6 or 7 cars there at night to begin with. We're not trying to do that.
I would like to ask, how is that going to affect the neighborhood since will be rezoning that on the back? Would that mean someone in the neighborhood can come in, say for instance, next door to McQuarrie, and say, okay, well, he's putting in something commercial here, I think I want to open up a business. Is that going to open up something for someone else to come in?
To put it bluntly, I'm not sure that anything else is geometrically configured in such a way that would allow that on the south side of Scarborough. This was just a unique lot. It was a radial lot on a corner where the house was pushed towards the center of the curve. Now, had that house been pushed back, you know, he probably couldn't, if that house had been put back another 25 feet, he probably couldn't do this because it just won't fit. It's just geometry. Literally, if that house was, pushed back, that current house was pushed back maybe 20 feet, I don't think this works because there's not enough separation. There's not enough leftover land towards Scarborough and not enough land between the 2 houses because you got to have at least 25 feet from behind the house and at least 25 feet from the new building. So it's just an odd shaped piece of property. But yes, if they could contrive some way to do that, it would probably lead towards the development of Scarborough Avenue, because you've got, over down by Younger, you've got almost all of that is commercial on the other side of Younger until you get to Williams Avenue. And then you've got these, I don't know, 4 or 5 houses, but like I say, I just don't think, well, it looks like it's maybe 10 houses along Scarborough, but as you get around that curve, those lots get narrower and narrower and become regular rectangles. So you're really not going to have that kind of distance if that, I mean, I can't make a commitment to you. I didn't do the math on it, but it doesn't look like those lots are but about 50 by 100, if they're that. Is that what it looks like to you, Ms. Rock? None of mine seem to have it, but just looking at it, that's what those lots, say 17 through 25, look like they're about, I don't know, 50 by 125 maybe. It's just, I just don't see it. I can't guarantee it, but I just don't see. And with all the other stuff across the street being R1, I think it's, to be honest with you, I think this thing is fully developed. I'm just not sure. There's a whole lot more. Rand's just sort of cleaned up an old piece of property that just kind of sat there for a while.
Yeah, I agree.
Any discussion by commission members? Commission have a pleasure?
Motion to approve.
All right. Motion by McAllister, second by Lewis. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. All right, Doc, you've got 2 things. You've got a re-subdivision, which comes up normally on the 10th. It'll be final in 10 days if nobody appeals. But because you've got a rezoning, that portion of your application is introduced on the 10th and voted on the 24th.
Okay.
Right here by the city council. Yes, Ms. Snowden?
I hope that he's going in and coming out with these Tiger or these ships. That's all. Depends on speaking along that. That's a very narrow street. And I don't want nobody to end up coming to that area and paying for mine and coming in my yard.
I understand.
If they do, they're gonna have to pay for it.
Thank you, Doc. Roman numeral 5, new business, subsection D, the application by Mr. Morgan Papillon to rezone the following. Tracts A containing 1.89 acres and Tract B containing 1.36 acres in Section 87, Township 9 North, Range 7 West, Natchitoches Parish, Louisiana, as shown on a plat in Conveyance Book 330, Folio 490, and lot containing 1.37 acres west of Tract A and lot containing 0.81 acres below Tracts A and B. All is shown on a plat in Conveyance Book 493, page 760, from B3 commercial to B3 commercial with additional BA zoning. The reasons for consumption on premises is Bering Municipal Address 7096 Highway 1 Bypass, Exhibit number 4 in Commissioner's Packet, Councilperson District number 1. Brief summary by the Director.
So this property is actually owned by Mr. Ron Bolton, and about a year or so ago, he had a nightclub that was there. Unfortunately, though, he let his license expire for the liquor license, and because the property was not in use for 6 months, he lost his BA zoning. Now Mr. Papillon has come and he's wanted to reopen the facility as a bar club. So he has applied for his BA license, or will apply for it, but he needs to have the property rezoned for BA, for consumption on premise.
Mr. Papillon, you heard the summary of your application by the Director. Is there anything you need to add, correct, or clarify for us?
Not to my knowledge.
All right. Are there questions for Mr. Dordelon from commission members? This was Ron's House of Sports at one time, Ms. Rock?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. And since there's no opposition here, let's go ahead with discussion by commission members. Does the commission have a pleasure?
Motion to approve.
Motion by McAllister. Second by Lewis. All in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, like sign. All right, that carries. Because it's a rezoning, it's introduced on the 10th. They're not supposed to talk about it, but if somebody shows up and says they gotta be in Houston on the 24th, city council's gonna let them talk. So I'd show up on the 10th, only talk if somebody else talks. Final voting's on the 24th. You gotta be there for that.
Okay.
All right?
Same place, the
Right,
24th?
right here, 5 o'clock. They do theirs at 5 as well. Is it 5:30, Ms. Rock?
It's at 5. Well, there's a pre-meeting at 5 and then the real meeting at 5:30.
Okay. Be here for 5 on those 2 dates, the 10th and the 24th.
10th and the 24th.
Yes, sir. And if you forget them, call one of the ladies at Planning and Zoning. They'll be happy to help you.
Guys, I'm about to write it down right now.
All right.
After what I seen here today, I was stressed.
I'm sorry if I stressed you out, but I don't think that lady realized that she was accusing us of all going in the back room and coming up with a result.
Like coming to a meeting like this, and this is like TV. I think y'all might need to record this.
It is recorded, unfortunately.
We are live.
All right, office activities, Ms. Rob.
Goodness gracious. Right now, there isn't anything, like when we had our little luncheon. We are still moving forward with our, oh goodness, I lost my train of thought. Is that bad? We're moving forward with everything that we talked about. We're trying to pull together our different ordinances for the tiny homes. We are gonna make that push about the short-term rental, trying to get that ordinance done for that.
I think the push is made tonight. Push where it needs to be for them to make a decision whether they're gonna. My deal was that, we talked about it Friday, but like we talked, she shouldn't, if she can rent it, she don't even need to be here.
Correct. So we just
let
need
them-
some.
If they wanna make if they, the city council wants to make, we upheld the ordinance. In other words, just take out the special exception, she can still go rent it, so.
Right. So we have that to look forward to. We have the idea of revisiting the mobile home park ordinance. That's something that we really need to think on. We have several opportunities for housing for different people. And if we look to at least either revoke or repeal some ordinances and maybe come up with some up-to-date rulings or regulations, I think it'll make our job a lot easier than what it is. A lot of the stuff that we're up against, it's old and it's outdated. We need to come up to times and standards for what we have.
Make your job a lot easier than make our job a lot easier.
It would. It would.
All right, anything else?
Nope.
Mr.
that's it.
Claiborne,
Make a motion to adjourn.
all in favor? Second by Lewis, all in favor, say aye. Aye.